Welcome to the Big Fat Gay Podcast, where we talk about the things that are weighing on our minds. But it's a little different today because it's an interlude.
Yay.
I'm Trevor Keyson. I'm a super chub. And there's a little May Gray going on outside this lovely recording morning.
Yeah. My name is Michael. I am a chaser joining Trevor today on our little interlude episode. And it's raining. It's straight up raining here where I am. It's like 58 degrees and raining. So today we are starting off another little hiatus that we have going for the month of May. We are going to be doing a handful of interlude episodes, same as we've done before. And today, Trevor and I thought it would be fun, since Don and I did our little chat last time around. Trevor and I thought it would be cool to kind of talk about the unique aspect of our relationship, our friendship, which is that originally when we first met, which was back in, God, when did we first meet? Do you remember?
I want to say it was maybe 2014.
Yeah. So that would be what, 7 years ago? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, some amount of time ago, we met met on Bigger City,
yes,
if I remember correctly. And, so you're pretty typical. Do you remember that at all? Because I don't really remember like the interaction. I know that you had a lot of very, very appealing pictures of Bigger City.
Yes. I don't really remember interactions. Recently I found, I think I was updating your picture in my contacts, and the picture that I used to have was a screenshot of your Bigger City picture. And I remember it was like, your screen name was like Hollywood Guy something.
Hollywood MW.
Yes.
Yeah, those are my initials. Oh my God, we have to, by the way, we're not there yet, but I'm just making a mental note to tell the story about when I was at work.
Oh my God, yes.
I think you know where this is going.
Yes.
Okay, we'll get there. So yeah, we met in Bigger City, and it was your pretty typical, like, I was in an open relationship, Trevor was in an open relationship, and, there's some chemistry, and basically, are we going to be friends? Are we going to hook up? What are we going to do? And started hanging out, and, basically did the pretty traditional, like, friends with benefits, hung out a lot, got to sleep together some, and all of that was good. And then my relationship started getting a little rocky, and I was like, I need to kind of step back from all of the, like, because it was not just Trevor, and I was like, I just need to kind of step back and focus on my relationship, and stop doing that. And we just sort of transitioned at that point into just, I'm using massive air quotes here, just friends. And it's kind of been that way ever since. And so I guess my question to you would be at the start, like, do you know of other people that started sort of this, like, friends with benefits hookup thing and then transitioned into just friends, like, successfully?
I think in the gay community, it is fairly common. Although I would say, I think maybe it gets a little more complicated when you get more specific, like within the chub chaser community. I don't know. I've noticed as, time has gone on, that, like, most of the people, like, when I have a party, like, about half of them are people I've slept with, which is, delightful. I mean, Michael and I's D&D party was comprised of, about half people I slept with, and then half, friends from college.
Straight friends from college.
Yeah, straight friends from college. Which is always, I think it's delightful to be able to do that. But I think it gets tricky, like, when there is kind of that change, like we went through, where it's like, we're friends and we can also kind of fuck around. And then it's like, but now we can't fuck around. And, you talked about it being seamless. And I think it is kind of like, there's that, some people are able to take the friendship exit, and then other people just kind of keep going down that highway of stuff.
I think what helps from my side of things, the experience that I've had with a number of other people was, there was always some kind of, like, I'm trying to figure out, like, the most, the best way to say this, but basically somebody catches feelings of the two people. And I think that there was a lot of like comfort in the fact that you were with Dan. I was with somebody else at the time. And it almost like, because that was just never on the table from the start, it actually made me feel incredibly comfortable and maybe a little less guarded. Whereas with other people who were single and I was not single, but I was like, hey, just so you know, I'm in a relationship. It's open, not looking for anything more than whatever. There were a number of instances where it got complicated because one person wanted more than the other.
I can also imagine it's like, oh, things are rocky. And like pull out compact and lipstick.
You don't say.
No, I definitely feel that, because I mean, I have been in the situation of, there was a chaser I met. This was before I moved out to California. A chaser I met from bigger city. We went out a couple of times, and then we got to that point where it's like, okay, what do we want to do? And at that point, I knew I was going to be moving to California at the following summer. And I was like, I know kind of the path I'm on, and I don't really want baggage. Like, I don't want to start a relationship and then have to figure out, like, am I going to make this work? Or am I going to be like, maybe feel weighed down and not move to California? So I'm like, we can be friends and we can keep fucking around, but like a relationship is not on the table.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, like, I mean, I had some, feels, but I'm like, no, this isn't going to happen. Like, smack my hand. And I know the chaser had some more feels. And definitely also, like, I think resented if I talked about, like, oh yeah, like I hooked up with this guy and like it was, fun, or it was weird and like blah, blah, blah. Here's all this. So I think it can be tricky when like both people are single, or if one of them's not. Or I think even if maybe like two people were in our situation, but like both relationships were rocky, I think that would be another.
Yeah, that would be dangerous in a different way. And I think, so I was thinking about this earlier, and to me, it feels very much like basically any relationship that you develop with a person over any period of time, no matter whether it's a romantic relationship, a friendship, work relationship, whatever, there's always going to be an element of how are we going to handle each other throughout changes, because there's always going to be some kind of change, whether it's somebody's feelings change or somebody's life situation changes or whatever. Like, how are you going to handle those changes as a unit? Like in our case, as friends. And I don't think it's all that different from being in a relationship with somebody, in the same way that, like, if you're dating somebody and you both are changing over a period of 1 or 2 years, like at the end of that period, are you still a couple? Does it still work? And I feel like a lot of people are searching for the version of that does work. And in a similar way, when you're searching for a really good friend, not necessarily even searching, but when you have a really good friend, you can make it through those changes. And it's like, I know who you are, you know who I am, and whatever's going on in life that doesn't like penetrate into that inner core of, like, I guess a comfort level, I guess. So there's a better way to put that, but it's a lot easier to sort of navigate those things. And I do think that initial transitional period was also a huge deal for me, like coming out of friends with benefits into regular friends, because I had attempted that transition with several other people before. In fact, there was when I first moved to LA for the first few years, which is how I met you, a lot of times if I was on bigger city, I wasn't really looking for a hookup. I was looking for friends. Yeah. I didn't really know how to make friends in other areas of life. And so I was going to what I knew. And that, of course, leads to a lot of complexity and people not being on the same page. And I feel like in our case, the fact that you didn't, I guess, what's the best way to put it? You didn't like latch on to me, which is a feeling that I'm very, very, I guess, cautious of. It helped immensely, and it helped me not have that baggage that I bring come into the, it just allowed it to be a smooth process. So I alluded to this before. So when we were still hooking up back in 2014, there's kind of two things I want to talk about. There's there's the approach. There's like how it all went down, because I think that's actually really interesting. Which I guess we can start there. But I do want to get to. I had an office job at one point in my life, during this time period. And so when Trevor and I first met, we went to, what was it, Grub, which I think is closed now.
Yes, R.I.P. Grub.
R.I.P. Grub. They had crack bacon. It's very good. And my sort of journey at the time was very much like, I don't feel like I really know what, like on a sexual level, because this is the only reason why I was exploring friends with benefits, because I had a relationship, but on a sort of sexual journey, I felt like there was just so much stuff that I didn't know about myself yet. And so as we were talking and kind of figuring out like, okay, is this something we're going to do? Your response, I think in that first meeting, you basically said, I'm going to give you a cornucopia of experiences to go to have.
I mean,
and we're going to figure out your thing. We're gonna hone in on.
Yeah, I remember this now. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, if you, I'm not saying everyone should do this, but if you are willing to be that for someone, and you are comfortable with that, and you enjoy it, I think it is the greatest gift you can give. It's the gift that once you find it, keeps on giving.
It's true. It's very true. And that was a really, like, I had never, I really think never up to that point had somebody say, we're going to focus on you. Like up to that point, it had been very much been about whatever the other person was interested in. And then I was kind of along for the ride. So that was a nice sort of, I don't know, 2014. It was like March of 2014. Somewhere around the summertime, I was working at my job at Here TV, sitting at my desk. I was an editor. And we had, it was very traditional, like cubicles office setup. And I had a PC on one side of the desk and I had a Mac on the other side. And this is important because at the time, I still had an iPhone, and Trevor and I would text with iMessage, and I had made the mistake of signing into iMessage on the Mac that I was working on at work. And to give you a little understanding of how this all went down, the Mac and the PC were opposite each other. So if I was working at one, I couldn't see the other at all. And so I was sitting at the PC doing my little thing, and one of my coworkers like opened the little curtain, because I put up a curtain, like a privacy curtain.
It's a beaded curtain.
Yeah. Opened it to ask me a question.
Oh my God. I didn't know about the curtain before. This is the first time I've learned this. That makes it so much worse.
I got the idea from somebody else, okay? It wasn't even, I was not the originator of the curtain. And I looked over at him, and he was beet red, like bright red, flushed, and he couldn't spit the words out. Like he was like, I just had a question. And like, I was like, okay, this is a little weird, but he was kind of an awkward guy, so I didn't really think about it. And I just answered the question, whatever it was, and he quickly walked away. I was like, okay. Go back to my PC, typing away, whatever. I think another, like a solid half hour goes by before I actually turn around to this giant full screen nude image.
It wasn't nude. It was tasteful. I call these their cheesecake pictures. It's not, it's tasteful. It's saucy and tasteful.
It was definitely like,
but a whole lot of Trevor.
Not safe for work. Not even close. And that was just the beginning of a wild, wild ride.
I have sympathy for this gentleman.
I don't want to say his name just in case. I don't want to embarrass him.
I don't know. I don't really have problems with people seeing pictures of me that are, whatever. I don't really take like super X-rated pictures. I take, cheesecake. But like, so I don't know if I've mentioned this on the podcast before. I probably have. We have a large oil painting of me in the nude that a friend was doing his final. He was in art school. He asked me to pose for a oil nude. I was like, yes, absolutely. And then I had a giant oil painting of me naked, which I was initially like, we can put it above the fireplace and it'll be awesome. And then once I had it, it's like, oh, like it's a choice. It would be a definite choice. So it's we have a fireplace in our bedroom. It's above the fireplace, but like people still see it. And like, if I'm giving a tour of the house, I'll be like, oh, by the way, you can choose to opt out here, but there's a nude painting of me in the bedroom. And I have had friends be like, nope, like I'm perfectly fine not seeing that.
But then there are other friends who did.
Yes.
Who were like, yeah, I want to see
like,
that.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
And non-gay, non-chub chaser, like just your average people were like, yeah, I'd like to see that. Because it is art. I mean, it is exactly what it sounds like. It's nude, but yeah.
I don't know, but it has kind of Renaissance vibes. It is, I don't know, angelic.
Sort of Rubenesque. Yeah.
But the point of that being like, I try to take care of people that are exposed to my nudity. So I do feel for that gentleman.
Yeah. I think it was an eye-opening moment for him.
So we're going to pause here, but we'll be back next week with part 2. So we'll see you then.